Well done.
The Gala Night, a culmination of one-year reportage on matters climate change. Journalists, environmental experts, members of parliament and climate change activists gathered in Nairobi, Kenya to witness the first ever continental event, the African Climate Change Environment Reporting Awards. The awards, whose aim is to recognize African journalists who excel in environmental journalism, are in their first year. And the 6-judge panel scrutinized hundreds of entries from the African region. But only pieces done during the period of January 2012 to March 2013 in both English and French were eligible. Pieces that tell the African climate change story.
Our task was to sift through, as we have said, some 112 journalistic works from diverse parts of Africa, focusing on the environment and especially on climate change. We were tasked with establishing how such works have helped or could help in addressing the vexed problem of the environment and climate change in Africa, and how journalism can help to reverse the phenomenon of climate change. We received entries, as we have noted, from diverse parts of the continent.
The judges also wanted winning articles to show what climate change means for Africa and what the people of Africa can do about it or are doing about it. This included policy issues, adaptation measures, mitigation, and any form of intervention on the ground.
We have to tell our story in our own language. We have to articulate our issues because we feel it. We don't think it, we don't read it in books, we feel it. Our own journalists are taking the story throughout the world. We are so proud to be here. This is very important for Africa. The time has come when we know that access to information is a sine qua non for sustainable development. Africa cannot move ahead when information is hidden or information is not known by the participants of development.
Africa is really negatively impacted by climate change. Floods, famine, food shortages are pounding the vulnerable continent, which lacks the resources to protect itself, and the women and children are the most vulnerable, without mentioning people with disabilities and others who find themselves into difficulties.
Numerous UN reports confirm that Africa will suffer extreme environmental upheavals as a result of rising temperatures, rising sea levels, and variations in precipitation. According to these reports, sub-Saharan Africa, where 70% of the people are farmers, crop yields are expected to fall by 20%, arable land, 65% of which is already wrecked by degradation and drought, is expected to further decline, worsening already serious food shortages and intensifying hunger and malnutrition. As much as 40% of species habitats may be altogether destroyed. Rainfall is predicted to decline by 10% by 2050. And the judges were keen to tap this knowledge from the pieces.
There are some defining challenges of this century, and I would say that is managing climate change and also overcoming world poverty.
The global carbon dioxide emission level has gone beyond the 400 parts per million, which was considered to be the threshold level for having irreversible impacts on our day-to-day life.
Indeed, from Cairo to the Cape, the impact of man-made climate change is already being felt. Farmers, people in cities, local scientists and governments all tell a remarkably similar story. That there is evidence of more extreme and unseasonal weather taking place outside the natural variability and cycles of African climate, and that the poorest communities are the least able to adapt. Elias Ntungwengalame from Cameroon was named African Climate Change Print Journalist of the Year with an article titled "Community Radio Help Cameroonians Track Climate Change."
Elias is looking for the $1,000. So it's there.
Second position went to Danstan Kaunda, a Zambian reporting from Zanzibar, with an article titled "Warming Seas Frustrate Zanzibar Seaweed Farmers." The third prize went to Mwadalitso Mwanda of Zimbabwe with an article titled "Rural Zimbabwe Struggle to Cope with Flooding." According to the judges, the winning print article by Ngalame was an excellent example of environmental journalism. It demonstrated how a community can employ live radio not only for monitoring daily weather changes, but to help people adapt to climate shifts and more extreme weather.
This writer transports you to the environment where all this is happening. You find yourself not just reading the piece, but also virtually listening to radio. An outstanding piece that shows a lot of promise, astutely relevant to the theme and very well sourced.
In the broadcast category, where Peter Labeja of Uganda emerged the best in that group.
The judges were unanimous that this journalist should be crowned the overall winner in the broadcast category. Through the production titled "Collecting Polythene Bags for Tree Seedling," the journalist tells the story of a man's mission to make good use of the bags that otherwise would be disaster or a nightmare to the environment. The bags are used instead to turn around the environment in an environment-friendly manner.
He was followed by Piu Sawa of Kenya and Adudomfi Kofi of Ghana. Apart from receiving a $1,000 cash prize, the two winners in both broadcast and print category won an all-expenses-paid travel grant to attend and report on the 19th Conference of Parties, the climate negotiations in Poland.
Let's give Grace a round of applause. Very well done, Grace. Congratulations.
In making their decisions, the judges were concerned with both form and content for all the categories. According to Mithika Mwenda, the Secretary General of PACJA, the awarding event will be held every year to encourage journalists to write more articles on climate change and related issues.
The ACCER Awards will no doubt inspire journalists and media houses to continue providing information and empower the general public to understand the role of climate change, changing environment, and the livelihoods. The awards seeks to germinate ideas and acknowledge society that may appropriately participate in climate change policy processes and reshape how we respond to climate change, in addition to how we utilize environmental resources and address the reduction of our ever-growing carbon footprint.
I want to invite you to put our hands together for Diana Nenehazwe of Burundi for the entry.
Indeed, and presenting this particular award, I hope is still here. May I invite the Deputy Director of the UN, Bonadesta Membratu, to please come and present this award. Please, Desta.
ACCER Awards Partners says the overall effect of the award will guide governments in the development of strategies, policies, action plans and measures on climate change, and thus adequately galvanize the grassroots communities, county and national governments and the continental and international arenas.
What we see with climate change, it's a slow process, it's a disaster coming, but sometimes media doesn't report about it because it's not an immediate disaster, and the human brain has a difficulty in grasping slow changes. So we have to remind media and encourage them to report on these kind of changes and the impact this has in Africa.
There is a motion in the pipeline on climate change, which the four of us are championing, and very soon it will be on the floor of the parliament, and I can tell you this time we shall push it until it becomes an act of parliament.
We in Parliament, we are ready and willing to work with you to promote and create
awareness on the impact of climate change on our socio-economic development of this country, of our continent, and of the entire planet.
This award was organized by the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance in liaison with UNEP with the support of Christian Aid, Oxfam, Novib, CEDA, Finchurch Aid, Diaconia and Brand Kenya Board.